Continuing on now with more One Soccer Direct, Mackenzie Barwell, Gareth Wheeler, and AGR with you. You guys, we got to talk about the Canadian Premier League because we're approaching an important milestone, which is pretty much a quarter way through the season, coming up to match week 7 here, which means we got to evaluate the daylight offside rule and football video support because a lot's gone down so far this season. So let's talk about it. Gareth, beginning with the daylight offside rule, do you feel like it's had a real significant impact on the season thus far?
Not really, to be honest with you. And I think that would surprise a lot of people. It's certainly been an adjustment for coaching staffs, for officials, for fans watching to wrap their head around what the new rule looks like and when a player is offside and when they aren't. But overall, just in terms of the way that the game is played, I don't think it's had that much of an effect. Maybe around the edges to a certain degree. I think that pundits and prognosticators thought that it was going to lead to teams falling back exceptionally deep when they're playing defensively, just keeping the game entirely in front of them. I haven't really noticed that whatsoever. Aside from set pieces, taking some adjustment in terms of the way that you defend set pieces, I think it's a little bit more difficult. I think it's been okay. And it makes me happy because I advocated for this rule to begin with, because it drives me crazy when goals are taken off, when a player's called offside and they chalk off goals because someone's nose or their kneecap is in an offside position. Blah. Daylight is so clear. Yes, you might be drawing lines, but that line is not on a part of a body that may or may not be a goal scorer. The daylight works for me. I think it makes sense, and I'm glad it's been so far so good in the Canadian Premier League.
Right. AGR?
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised, I would say, because I wondered, I am one of those people who felt like this rule could have fundamental changes in terms of how teams defend, how teams play. That hasn't been the case. I think that's encouraging to see. I think this is why this is a good data point. I will point out, though, that I'm going to exercise caution just because what we've seen is teams are yet to have an incentive to abuse or game the rule yet because it's early in the season. Wins are worth more than draws and vice versa. It's important to get goals. So I think what we're seeing is what this rule does in a bit of a neutral state where all 8 teams are just kind of, they're not thinking about it too much. It's there. You see it happen in a moment, especially set pieces like Will's mentioned. I think of that Brian Wright goal against Pacific a few weeks ago where second phase Pacific doesn't clean out quick enough. Boom, Wright punishes. On the flip side, the first one we saw was the opposite, right? Halifax doesn't get out quick enough. Diaz punishes. But other than that, it's negligible. I worry about game week 27. What happens if you're away, you need a draw to get in the playoffs? Are we going to just see a team set up at the 6-yard box? Like, all right, no offside shenanigans, get it easy. But I think that's why we're going to need more sample size. What does this look like in higher stake games where coaches and players are going to be a bit more incentivized to game the margins, whereas now we're in a bit of a neutral state where all looks good. And it's so far been a lot more pleasant. It's been more pleasant than I thought it would be.
That could happen anyways, AGR. That could happen anyways. When the games matter most, people play it safe. So yeah, you may be right, but we'll have to see on that.
I was just going to follow up and say, AGR, do you feel like there's anything in particular right now? Obviously, we're looking a little bit ahead, but that you feel is either a like or a dislike with this rule?
Yeah, I think the like is, I like how easy it is to see, right? Like that's the nice thing about daylight is it's visual. It's a clear marker, at least for most of the contentious offside calls I've been able to see with the naked eye. Be like, okay, I see who's on, who's off. On the flip side, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still drawing lines. It's still really getting down to it. But I do like that it is slightly more clear. So I think that this offside law, I feel like the real winner maybe are linesmen here, right? Because for them, I think it's been a bit easier as well to just see across the line, see how easy it is to tell what's onside and what's been offside. So that's been a positive for me for sure.
Yeah, I like everything about it. The best part about it is that 2 more goals have been given that would have been called offside last season. So you got 2 more goals to celebrate, to watch, to enjoy than what you would have had under the old system. That's a win for me.
I knew you'd answer that way in our show notes. Just said everything. I'm like, okay, this is unanimous for real. Love that. Okay, let's talk about football video support because this was
not I'm not as positive about this one.
Okay, so we're flipping sides here. And the coaches challenge is kind of involved in this conversation as well. We knew that there was going to be a learning curve with this, especially in the first few weeks of the season. Gareth, how would you assess the implementation of this so far?
Yeah, I think that the referees and the coaches and the teams, everyone involved in this, the game ops, everyone deserves a lot of credit because implementing this is not easy. This is a significant change. Remember, the Canadian Premier League didn't have VAR before, and this assistance is more so like kind of VAR light. That's what it screams out to me. And I think there's been good examples where the process has been done really well, and it's been timely. It's been utilized in a quick and decisive manner. And so there's been other times it's been a little bit more blurry, unclear, and things have dragged out. This is natural when you're implementing something brand new, and it's happening like in real time. So the wins and losses play out for everyone to see. So it's a high pressure situation, and I just think everyone deserves a lot of credit. I do think it has its pitfalls as well. The whole idea is to appease coaches and give them another tool to use in their toolbox in terms of getting calls right. Because there's obviously clear frustration when calls don't go their way and decisive ones that impact the results of games. So this empowers the managers to go out and review calls where they think that they've been aggrieved. The thing is, they are not trained referees. They don't have the advantage of the video in real time before them, like referees do have in VAR. And I think the trained referee's eye kind of knows a little bit more about what they're looking out for, rather than a manager who's in the heat of the moment, and they'll always think that their side is being aggrieved in terms of what a call is given or one isn't. So I think that that's led to a little bit of a misuse of reviews. And the way that the system is played out. And I think that that's something that's going to need to be ironed out as the technologies continue to be used here, and just figure out the best way to use it. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle on this one because I think there's been some really good moments, but also I can fully admit that it's very much a work in progress.
Yeah, I love the FVS just as a concept first and foremost. Like, I think it's nice that you get some sort of autonomy, right? In terms of, because how many times you watch games with VAR and you're left, how did they not, get the ref over to have a look at it? I like that idea that you kind of almost have like a button of, all right, like whether you like it or not, you want the ref to look at the call and at least consider what's going on. So I really like it. At the end of the day, like any technology, it's only as good as how it's applied and the people who use it. And I think, that leads to growing pains. I think you've seen that, right? One ref is going to look at it different than another. A different fourth official is going to assess calls differently. But I find when it works, it's fantastic. For me, so far, the best use of it I've seen was that game between Supra and Halifax on a Friday, about a month ago. I thought for whatever reason that game, it was efficient, it was quick. The referee would go, take his time, all the calls he did, he properly had a look. And I think it was a good balance because we've seen kind of all sides of it, or where some referees are a bit quick. They look, one look, nope, I'm going to stick with my decision. And it's kind of like, all right, what's the point of having this technology if you're just going to go over and affirm your call? I've liked when referees have taken the time to at least consider other looks, look at 3 or 4 angles. But on the flip side, we saw, especially in week 1, which was to be expected. I thought there was a lot of maybe unnecessary outrage because it was week 1 and it was literally ironing out the kinks of the technology of, okay, sometimes it takes too long. You don't need to be taking 2-3 minutes to look at certain calls. But when you strike that balance, I found it's really been a nice addition and something that's been nice to have that technology to aid with decision making, especially for the refs who've been able to use it really well.
Yeah, for sure. And having been on the sidelines, I think, for a couple of these games, it's very clear when a ref is reluctant to stray away from their original call and when they're sort of willing and more open to taking the time. I personally like it for the drama, you guys. I feel like slows things down. Like the crowd is a little bit more into it. Okay, what is that groan?
All the kids are going to be doing twirls now when they're
exactly. AJ, I'm going to come back to you here though, because I'm curious to know if you feel like the coaches and the teams really have found a way to use this as a source of gamesmanship and use FVS and these reviews to their advantage.
Well, this is where the one thing I don't like so far, and I think needs to be curbed. I get it. It's an awkward situation because I don't think one challenge is enough, because you could just, what if you challenge it, it gets wrong, it gets burned in the first few minutes. At the same time, two feels like too much, because now a lot of coaches hang on, like, oh, I'm going to keep that extra in my pocket. And then you lead to these situations where anything after the 75th minute, even if it's a 20-80, heck, I've even seen some 0-100 calls where the coaches know they have absolutely no intention. And because by the time the fingers twirled, the entire team is conveniently at the bench and water is being passed around and there's already a tactical board being put out. So I think there needs to be some sort of change already to curb that. My suggestion has long been, I think, like in hockey, where when you get a challenge wrong, you have to go on the penalty kill. I think you should give out a yellow card to the coach. And maybe by doing that, of course, over time, it adds up with suspensions, fines. So I think if you're constantly making frivolous decisions, it will catch up to you. And then, of course, you can appeal. So like, okay, if you're like, there was a legitimate claim for a call and I just got hosed, you can at least appeal it. This is for the ones where it's 0-100, you have no chance of doing it. And then another one would be, just don't let the players gather, right? Right? It's like the goalkeeper timeout debate where the keeper goes down and then conveniently everyone's at the bench with the tactical board. Just curb out any sort of instances like that slow down the game. Because at the end of the day, while we want this technology to help aid referees, we don't want it to turn into a tool that just turns the match into a slog.
Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure about your yellow card idea, but I will say, like, the wishful thinking Hail Mary challenge is the worst part about this by far. Like, AGR, you're so right. Like, these 20, 80, 30, 70s, you're down a goal late in the game and you have a challenge to use. You're like, oh, two players go down inside the box. Oh, we got to challenge that. Like, it's just nonsense. No one wants to see that. And then it ends up being like 10 minutes of stoppage time, which no one wants to see either. That's the part that they need to get rid of. And maybe my solution's a little bit different. If you get a challenge incorrect, then the other team should get a free kick. Like, that way there's at least some sort of jeopardy or some sort of punishment to halting play based upon a whim. This technology these challenges shouldn't be used based on a whim. It's just not the way to do so. Like, you need to be sure. And even when you're still sure, this is also kind of a flaw in the system. Inevitably, what the referee sees or doesn't see is subjective. The game is subjective unless it's the ball's over the line or not over the line, like in or out, goal, no goal. Aside from that, most calls in the game of football are subjective. So I don't think based upon this technology, you're getting more calls correct or the referee's getting more calls incorrect. I think that is just safeguarding from the obvious errors that are made. And that's when the technology is used the best, when an obvious error has been made, and this provides the ability to correct that. So look, I think some of the ideas behind it are good, but I just don't think we're there in terms of how to optimize using this where it doesn't affect the game too much. Minimal interference, maximum positivity. That's what we need here. And I think we're on the road towards that, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And again, we're about a quarter way through the season, so there's lots more potential to eventually get to that point. I'm curious to see and hear what everyone else thinks on this subject. Are there solutions that need to be made in the first place? What are your ideas? Who's right, Gareth or AGR?
Probably not me. Probably not me. That's okay.
We'll see. Thanks for watching this episode of One Soccer Direct, and we'll see you next time.